She thought she married the love of her life, a powerful CEO, a charming lawyer, the perfect husband. But when she found divorce papers hidden in his briefcase, she discovered something far more terrifying than an affair. Her entire marriage was a trap, a calculated scheme designed years before they ever met. And the man she trusted most? He had been hunting her like prey. But here's what he didn't expect. The woman he tried to destroy had a brother worth $4 billion. A brother who had been searching for her for 25 years. This is the story of Sarah Mitchell, a pregnant woman who uncovered a web of lies spanning 3 decades, a hidden fortune worth millions, and a family secret that powerful men were willing to kill to protect. What she did next shocked everyone. This story will show you how to recognize the warning signs of manipulation, why family secrets can become weapons, and most importantly, how one woman chose truth over comfort and transformed her greatest betrayal into her greatest strength. At 6 months pregnant, Sarah sat in a high-end Manhattan restaurant, clutching the papers that proved her life was a lie. Across the table, her husband Richard, a powerful CEO, cut his steak with chilling precision. "Keep your voice down, Sarah. People are looking," he whispered, his tone as sharp as his knife. She ignored him, her voice trembling as she held up the documents she found in his briefcase. "These are divorce papers, Richard." A hint of her Alabama accent surfaced, a sure sign she was distressed. "I also found the report from the private investigator you hired to follow me." Richard finally met her gaze, his eyes like cold steel. "That is just standard legal protection. You are being dramatic." Sarah's face grew hot. "Dramatic? There is a custody evaluation in here, Richard. And I know about your assistant, Jennifer." At her name, his jaw tightened. He placed his silverware down with a deliberate click. "Jennifer is a colleague. Your implications are inappropriate." "I am not a fool, Richard," Sarah said, her voice dropping. "I saw the hotel charges. I want to know why you really married me and why you wanted me pregnant." She pushed a single page across the table, one that detailed her mother's family history in Alabama. It was the page that made her feel sick. Richard's face lost all its color as he looked at it. His confident mask finally slipped. "Where did you find this?" he demanded. "In your briefcase, with everything else." A strange sense of calm washed over Sarah. "I want the truth." The silence between them was tense enough to break. Richard's voice became dangerously low. "The truth? You are an ungrateful woman who has no idea how good her life is. Without me, you would still be teaching 3rd grade in some forgotten town." He laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You want honesty? This marriage was never a fairy tale. You were a project, Sarah." The words felt like a punch to the gut. The baby kicked, as if sensing her panic. "What does that mean?" she asked. "It means," he said, "that I know exactly what you are worth. And it has nothing to do with your Southern charm." For the first time, she saw the real man she had married. He was not a charming lawyer, but a cold-hearted businessman. "This is about money," she said, the realization dawning on her. "Everything is about money, Sarah. A concept you have never had to worry about. But that is about to change." "Are you threatening me?" Richard leaned back, his smug smile returning. "I am explaining your reality. You sign the papers, take the settlement, and raise our child. If you fight me, you will learn how ugly a divorce can get, especially when we discuss your mental stability." Mental stability? Pregnancy hormones? Paranoid accusations? "It paints a very troubling picture for a single mother," he said coldly. She knew this was not just a divorce. It was a war for her child, designed to trap her completely. Then a detail from the file clicked into place. "The investigator's report," she said suddenly. "It focuses on my mother's maiden name. Why?" Richard's composure wavered. "Standard background check." We were together for 2 years before we got married. You met my family, she pushed back. My mother died when I was 17. Her family was never in my life. So, why do you care about the Blackstone name? At the name Blackstone, Richard froze. Sarah saw real fear in his eyes for the very first time. He reached across the table and grabbed her wrist, his grip painfully tight. Listen to me. There are things about your family you do not understand. You will sign those papers and forget about this. She struggled against his grip. You are hurting me. I'm trying to stop you from making a huge mistake. The situation was spiraling out of control. She felt a fire ignite inside her, burning away years of feeling small and dismissed. Let go of me, Richard. Not until you promise to stop digging. No, she said, her voice clear and strong. My family is my concern. Your family is me and our baby. Nothing else. My family is not you, she declared, her voice ringing through the restaurant. And I am not your property. The slap was so fast she never saw it coming. The sharp crack silenced the entire dining room. Her cheeks stung, and she could taste blood. In the sudden, complete silence, every eye in the room turned to their table. Her private life had just become a public spectacle. Ma'am, are you okay? A waiter was standing at her side. He was tall, maybe in his late 30s, with kind green eyes that seemed strangely familiar. His warm voice made her want to break down and cry. I am fine, she whispered, though it was obviously a lie. The waiter looked at Richard with pure disgust. Sir, I am going to have to ask you to leave. This is a private discussion, Richard snapped, but his voice had lost its power. Not anymore, the waiter said calmly but firmly. Security is on their way. Richard looked around at the 50 strangers staring at him, his carefully built reputation shattering. This is not over, Sarah, he snarled as he stood. He threw his napkin down and stormed out, leaving her alone in a sea of curious faces. The waiter returned. Can I get you some ice for that? He asked gently. Sarah could only nod, unable to speak. He took Richard's empty seat without an invitation. I know this is forward, he began, but you should not be alone right now, and you definitely should not drive. Sarah accepted the ice pack he offered. I will call a cab, she said, her voice trembling. What is your name? He looked at her intently. Sarah Mitchell, she answered, then corrected herself. Well, Sarah Wheeler Mitchell. I am not sure what my name is anymore. At the name Wheeler, the waiter's expression changed. Wheeler, he said slowly, from Alabama? Sarah stared at him. How did you know that? He pointed to her face. Your accent and... This might sound odd, but did you ever live in a town called Fairfield? A chill went down her spine. Who are you? Instead of answering, he handed her a business card. She read the words, and her world spun. Blackstone Holdings, Marcus Blackstone, Chief Executive Officer. The name was like a punch to the gut. Blackstone. It was the same name from Richard's secret files, the one that had made her husband's face turn pale with fear. I do not understand, Sarah whispered. Marcus Blackstone looked at her with piercing green eyes that felt strangely familiar. His voice was soft. I think you do, Sarah. I think you have always felt like a piece of you was missing. Sarah stared at the man who was supposedly a billionaire, but had just been serving her wine. He knew her hometown, her maiden name, and he looked at her as if he had been searching for her his entire life. Who are you? She asked again, her voice barely a whisper. I am your brother, Marcus said, plainly. And I have been looking for you for 25 years. Hours later, in her cold, empty apartment, Sarah stared at the card. The ice pack had melted, but the impossible words of the man claiming to be her brother were branded in her mind. She had typed Marcus Blackstone's name into her computer the moment she got home. The search results made her collapse into a leather chair. Forbes magazine listed him as the 38th richest person in America, with a net worth of $4.2 billion. His tech empire spanned 3 continents. Photos showed a man with her green eyes and their mother's determined jaw, commanding boardrooms and giving speeches. But in every picture, she saw something else in his eyes, a look of someone who had everything but was still searching for one specific thing. Her laptop was open to an interview from 2019. In it, he talked about growing up in foster care in Alabama after his mother vanished when he was 13. He spoke about overcoming abandonment and using that pain to fuel his success. I learned early that the people who are supposed to love you can leave, he said in the interview. But I also learned that love is not about blood. It is about choosing to show up for people. Sarah thought back to when she was 17 and her mother died. Her stepfather, Tom, had called it a tragic car accident. 6 months later, they moved to New York, and he legally changed her name from Blackstone Wheeler to just Wheeler. He said it was for a fresh start. Now she wondered what he was really hiding. The apartment suddenly felt like a stage, and all the expensive furniture Richard had picked out felt like a costume she was desperate to remove. Her phone buzzed. It was a text from Richard. "We need to talk. This does not have to be difficult." She deleted the message without a second thought. Then she dialed the number on Marcus's card. He answered immediately, as if he had been waiting by the phone. "Sarah, I need to ask you something," she said, skipping any pleasantries. "Do you remember a little girl who used to read under an oak tree behind a blue house on Maple Street?" There was a long pause. When Marcus finally spoke, his voice was thick with emotion. "You had a book about a princess who saved herself. You read it so many times the cover fell off." Sarah closed her eyes, the memory flooding back. She was 7 or 8 years old, and a teenage boy would sometimes bring her lemonade. Her mother had called him her guardian angel. "That was you," she said, tears welling in her eyes. "That was me," he confirmed. "I always checked on you after my shift at the grocery store." "Why did no one ever tell me?" she asked. "Mom made everyone promise to protect you," Marcus explained gently. "Our mother? Your father. My father was a violent man, and she was terrified he would find us and use you to hurt her. After she died, your stepfather honored that promise. Tom Wheeler is a good man, Sarah. He moved you across the country and changed your name because he was genuinely afraid for you." Sarah thought of her kind but distant stepfather, who had always seemed to keep her at arm's length. It was not grief, it was fear. "Where is your father now?" she asked. "Our father," Marcus corrected her. "He is serving a life sentence for murder. He has been in prison for 8 years. The words were like a splash of ice water. "This is insane," she said out loud. "This morning, I was a wife and a new mother. Tonight, my husband is planning to ruin me for reasons tied to a family I never knew I had. And my long-lost brother is one of the richest men in the world." Marcus let out a dry laugh. "Life has a way of revealing everything all at once. The question is, what are you going to do now?" Sarah looked around the penthouse that had never felt like a home. She thought about Richard's threats and the bruises on her wrist. "I want to understand what is happening to me." "Are you ready for some difficult conversations?" Marcus asked. "More difficult than learning my entire life is a lie?" "You would be surprised," he said. "Can you meet me tomorrow?" "My office at 10 in the morning." A wave of fear washed over her. What if Richard finds out? Marcus's voice turned firm. "Sarah, I have built this company for 15 years. If I cannot protect my own sister from one bully in a suit, then I am not the man people think I am." For the first time in a very long time, she felt safe. "Okay," she agreed. But I have conditions. Name them. I want the complete truth. About our mother, your father, and why Richard is so terrified of the Blackstone name. No more lies. Agreed, he said without hesitation. And I want to know what this means for my baby. I will not let my child be used as a pawn in Richard's games. Marcus's voice was a solemn vow. Sarah, I give you my word. Your child will grow up safe, loved, and free from the shadows of our parents. Family protects family. After the call, Sarah sat in the dark and thought about the woman she was this morning versus the woman she was becoming. The change felt like shedding a skin that never fit. She opened her laptop one more time. She searched for a connection between her husband's company, Mitchell Industries, and Blackstone Holdings. What she found made her blood run cold. For 3 years, Richard's law firm had been systematically attacking Marcus's companies with lawsuits and complaints, all designed to bleed him dry and ruin his reputation. It was not business. It was personal. Sarah realized Richard had been fighting a secret war against Marcus for years. All his late nights and hushed phone calls were not for their future, but to ruin her brother's life. The baby kicked, and she rested a hand on her stomach. She whispered, "Don't you worry, your Uncle Marcus will help us." For the first time, that felt like a real promise. The next morning, a gray rain fell over Manhattan. Sarah looked up at the Blackstone building on Fifth Avenue, its top floors vanishing into the clouds. The 91 stories of steel and glass felt like a world she never belonged to. Inside, the marble lobby was designed to make you feel insignificant. But when Sarah gave her name at the security desk, the guard's demeanor changed instantly. He went from professional to genuinely warm. "Miss Mitchell, Mr. Blackstone wants me to bring you up myself." The elevator ride to the 91st floor was long, giving Sarah time to think. She had spent the night learning about Marcus Blackstone. He was a brilliant and ruthless man who had built an empire, but she also noticed a deep loneliness in his interviews. He often talked about second chances and helping people overcome their past. Sarah guessed he spent 15 years saving others because he couldn't save himself from the pain of losing his own family. The elevator doors opened into a reception area that felt more like a cozy living room than an office. There were books on the walls instead of awards. A woman in her 50s stood up from a beautiful antique desk. "Miss Mitchell, I am Helen, Mr. Blackstone's assistant. He is ready for you." Marcus's office had stunning floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park, but what Sarah noticed most were the personal touches, like family photos and a well-used leather reading chair. Marcus was looking out at the park. When he turned around, his eyes reminded her so much of their mother. "Thank you for coming," he said. She replied, "Thank you for telling me the truth, or at least some of it." He pointed to 2 chairs near the window. A folder sat on the table between them, holding the rest of her story. "Coffee? Water?" he offered. "Actually, I want to start with this," Sarah said. She pulled out an old photograph from her jewelry box. It showed a young woman holding a toddler with a little boy standing beside them. "This is the only picture I have of our mother with both of us." Marcus took the photo, his hands shaking slightly. "I remember this day," he said softly. "Mom had just bought you that dress with the pink flowers." "I do not remember the dress," Sarah said, "but I remember feeling safe." She sat down, placing her hands over her stomach. "Tell me everything that happened." He was quiet for a moment, tracing the edge of the picture. "Our father, Victor Blackstone, was a troubled man. He was a violent alcoholic who could not keep a job." He continued, "Mom tried to make it work, but by the time I was 10, she was planning for us to escape." "Both of us, Sarah?" Sarah asked. "Yes, that was the plan. But Victor found out." Sarah's chest grew tight. What did he do? He beat me so badly I was in the hospital for a week. He told Mom that if she ever tried to leave with us, he would end all of our lives. Victor did not see family. He saw property. He believed we belonged to him. Sarah thought of Richard's cold threats about custody. The methods were different, but the mindset was the same. So, Mom saved one of us, instead of losing us both, Sarah said. Marcus nodded. She made the hardest choice a parent could make. She took you and ran, promising to come back for me. But she never could, Sarah whispered. No, Victor spent 2 years searching for you. He even hired his criminal friends to help. Mom lived in constant fear that he would find you. What changed? She asked. I did, Marcus said, his voice turning cold. When I turned 13, I was big enough to fight back. One night, Victor came home drunk and started on me. This time, I hit him back and put him in the hospital. You were only 13, Sarah said, stunned. Old enough to be done with being afraid. After that, he left me alone, but he focused all his rage on finding you. He told Mom he needed to teach her a lesson. Did he find you? Sarah asked. Not Mom, but he found information on your stepfather, Tom Wheeler. Tom called Mom in a panic, saying someone was asking questions at your school. A chill ran down Sarah's spine. What did she do? She made another impossible choice. She told Tom to take you and disappear, change your name, move across the country, and cut all ties. She explained that if Victor found you, he would use you to hurt her, and then he would get rid of all of you. Tom truly loved you, so he agreed. He gave you a new life where Victor Blackstone could never find you. What about you and Mom? Sarah asked, tears in her eyes. We decided it was safest for me to go into foster care. The plan was for Mom to stay hidden until Victor gave up, but that never happened. He was arrested for assault 6 months later, then again for robbery. For the next 4 years, he was in and out of prison, always threatening to find you. Then, when you were 17, Mom died in a car accident. Sudden and tragic. The way Marcus said it made Sarah look at him. You do not believe it was an accident. No, Mom was exhausted from 5 years of hiding, of being separated from her children. I think she was rushing to meet someone who claimed to have information about Victor. I believe someone set her up. I have never been able to prove it, but her accident was just too convenient. Sarah felt sick. You think our father had her killed? Our father, Marcus corrected her. And yes, I think it is possible. He never acted surprised she died right when she was trying to find us. The baby kicked hard, and Sarah gasped. Are you okay? Marcus asked, alarmed. Just processing that my mother might have been murdered by the man who hunted me like an animal. Marcus took her hand. Sarah, you need to understand. Victor cannot hurt you now. He is serving life without parole. He has no contacts, and he does not know where you are. You are safe. But Richard knows who I am, she whispered, which leads to the question that has kept me up for 3 years, Marcus said. How does your husband know our family secrets? Sarah thought about the investigator's report and Richard's strange reaction to the Blackstone name. I think, she said slowly, that my marriage was never about love. It was always about access to something. Marcus opened a folder and slid a document toward her. Blackstone Holdings has a unique structure, he said. I included a rule that would allow any direct blood relative to claim a significant stake if they met certain conditions. What kind of conditions? Sarah asked, her heart sinking. Marriage, children, proof of a genetic relationship. It was meant to protect our family, to make sure money could never separate us the way poverty did. Sarah stared at the document as a horrible understanding began to dawn. Richard married me because he thought he could get your money through our child. I think someone told him that marrying a Blackstone heir would pay off. Marcus replied. The real question is who. Sarah remembered how Richard had always been generous with money, but controlling with everything else, insisting on handling all their legal affairs. He was playing a long game, she said. Years of investing in a relationship that he thought would make him rich. Very rich, Marcus confirmed. Community property laws would have given him access to hundreds of millions of dollars. The deception hit Sarah like a physical blow. She had loved a man who only saw her as a path to a fortune she never knew existed. But what if he divorced me first? She asked. He could claim you concealed assets, Marcus explained. He could argue for a larger settlement based on fraud. It was actually very clever. Anger surged through Sarah. He was going to steal my inheritance and my child and make me grateful for it. That appears to have been the plan until you found those papers. What happens now? Marcus smiled, and for the first time, he looked dangerous. Now we find out who has been feeding Richard information, and then we make sure they learn why using a Blackstone is a very bad idea. Sarah saw the determined boy he once was. I want to help, she said. Sarah, you are 6 months pregnant. You need to focus on yourself and the baby. This is my life they have been manipulating, and this is my child they plan to use as a bargaining chip. I am not sitting on the sidelines. Marcus studied her face, seeing something familiar in her expression. You have Mom's eyes, he said quietly. But you have her backbone too. Okay, we do this together, but we do it smart and we do it safe. What is the first step? First, we move you somewhere. Richard cannot find you. I have a place that is completely private. I cannot just disappear. I have doctor's appointments, all of which we can handle with better security, Marcus insisted. Sarah, I spent 25 years wondering what happened to you. I am not losing you now because we underestimated a desperate man. Sarah thought about Richard's threats and nodded. Okay, she said, but I want to understand everything. No more protective lies. Agreed. But first, I want you to meet someone who has been helping me search for you. Her name is Detective Maria Santos, and she thinks your husband's connection to our family goes back much further than we realized. As if summoned, the office door opened. A woman in her 40s entered, carrying a thick file and an expression that promised bad news. Miss Mitchell, she said, her voice grave, we need to talk. Detective Maria Santos had the kind of presence that made people confess things they never planned to say. She was compact and efficient, with eyes that missed nothing as she opened her file. Before we start, she said to Sarah, you need to understand that what I'm about to tell you will change how you see everyone in your life. Are you sure you are ready for that? Sarah looked at the tension in her brother's shoulders. I do not think I have a choice anymore. There is always a choice. You could walk away right now and build a quiet life somewhere else. Many people would consider that the smart move. Would you? Maria's smile did not reach her eyes. I have never been called smart, but I have been called thorough. She placed a photograph on the table. Do you know this man? Sarah stared at the photo, and the ground fell out from under her. That's my stepfather, Tom Wheeler. It was taken 3 weeks ago, right outside Richard's office. The truth hit her like a punch to the gut. Tom wasn't just talking to Richard. According to my sources, he has been feeding Richard details about your family for over 2 years. Sarah tried to see the man who raised her in the picture, but all she saw was betrayal. That is impossible. Tom saved me from all this. He took us to New York, gave me a new name, a new life. He did, Maria said, and he has been scared to death ever since. That he made a mistake. Marcus leaned in. What kind of mistake? Tom has carried the guilt of your mother's death for 25 years. He blames himself for not protecting her, for taking you so far away that she died all alone. Tears welled in Sarah's eyes. He never told me. What was he supposed to say? That he had spent decades wondering if Maria would still be alive if he had done things differently. Maria presented another file. 2 years ago, someone made Tom an offer. Richard? Sarah asked. Not exactly. It was a third party, claiming to work for Richard. They told Tom they had found Marcus and wanted to arrange a family reunion. They just needed some background information to make sure it was safe. Marcus's face hardened, and Tom fell for it. He wanted to fall for it, Maria added. He had followed Marcus's career for years, always hoping for a safe way to bring you two back together. When they offered him what looked like a real chance to finally make things right, he took it. Sarah felt a wave of nausea, so he gave them everything. Your new name, where you lived, your marriage, everything. He believed he was helping put your family back together, Marcus said grimly. Instead, he handed Richard the weapon to tear it apart. It gets worse, Maria said. Once Tom started talking, they kept asking for more. They wanted details about your mother's final days and Victor Blackstone's threats. Why would they want to know about that? Maria and Marcus shared a look. Because Victor Blackstone is still dangerous, even in prison. He runs a criminal network from his cell, and his sons from his first marriage are making sure no one else can claim to be his heir. Sarah felt the baby kick as her heart raced. His sons? Victor had 2 sons before he met your mother. Both are career criminals who have been waiting 25 years for him to die, so they can get their hands on whatever money he hid, Sarah concluded. What money? That is the million-dollar question, Maria said, pulling out another page. Victor Blackstone was a violent man, but he was smart enough to hide a fortune where no one could find it. Money the FBI never touched. Marcus sat perfectly still. How much? We estimate somewhere between $10 and $50 million. That is more than enough to make people eliminate any rivals for the inheritance. Sarah struggled to breathe. Rivals like me. Like you, and any children you have, Maria confirmed. According to the law, all of Victor's biological children have an equal claim to his money. So Richard wasn't just after Marcus's fortune. He wanted our baby to have a claim on Victor's hidden cash, too. He was playing both sides. Exactly, Maria said. Marry you to get access to Marcus's clean money, then use his own child's bloodline to claim a piece of Victor's dirty money. Sarah saw her own terror mirrored in Marcus's eyes. How many people are after us? At the very least, Victor's 2 sons and their crew, Richard, and anyone Victor owes money to. The scale of it all was dizzying. Sarah thought she was just dealing with a cheating husband. Instead, she was trapped in a criminal plot spanning generations, with millions of dollars and murderers involved. What about Tom? She asked. Tom is filled with regret and is completely terrified, Maria answered. He realized what he had done and tried to stop. But it was too late. They have enough on him to ruin his life if he stops helping them. We have to do something. We will, Marcus promised. But our first job is to keep you safe. If Victor's sons find out Richard's plan is failing, they will look for other solutions. Other solutions? Maria and Marcus exchanged another glance, and Sarah knew there was more. Show her the timeline, Marcus said. Maria produced one last document. It showed important dates from their family's past, next to some strange coincidences. I do not get it. Your mother's car accident was 2 days after Victor's last appeal was rejected, Maria pointed out. Richard met you 6 months after Marcus's company went public, and Richard's people first contacted your stepfather a week after Victor's sons were released from prison. You believe this was all planned for years? I believe this was planned from the day your mother died, Marcus said. Victor's sons have been watching us for decades, waiting for their chance. Richard was either in the right place at the right time to help, or he has been working for them from the start. We are still trying to figure that out, Maria added. The deception was overwhelming. So everyone has been lying to me? My husband, my stepfather. Not everyone, Marcus said softly. Tom made a terrible mistake, but he loves you, and now you have family that will do anything to protect you. So what happens now? Maria leaned forward. It means you vanish until we handle these threats. A new identity, a secret location, and 24-hour security until the baby is born. And we have taken care of everyone with a claim on this family. How long will that take? Months, maybe more. Sarah imagined spending her pregnancy in hiding while others fought her battles. Part of her wanted it, but another part hated it. What if I do not want to disappear? What if I want to fight? Then you are risking your life and the baby's life, Marcus stated flatly. These people have already killed once. Once, Sarah. They will do it again. You really think they murdered Mom? I think her accident happened at a very convenient time for people who wanted her out of the way. Sarah rested her hands on her stomach, feeling the baby move. For the first time, she truly understood this was not just about her. Her choices now would impact an innocent child who deserved a safe life, free from the violence that had defined her own and Marcus's childhood. Okay, she said, I will disappear, but I want updates, and I want a say in how this ends. I refuse to spend my life hiding because we were too afraid to solve the problem for good. What are you saying? I am saying it is time the Blackstone family stopped running from Victor's legacy and started to fight. A fierce smile spread across Marcus's face. Now you are talking like a Blackstone. The safe house was a massive estate in the Hamptons with a private beach and state-of-the-art security. It should have been a dream, but after 3 weeks of being isolated in luxury, Sarah was going stir-crazy. You are pacing again. Dr. Elizabeth Hartman noted from a chair near the fire. The doctor Marcus hired visited twice a week, a trusted person, cleared for access. I am pregnant, not a prisoner, Sarah shot back, continuing her patrol of the room. I am losing my mind sitting here while everyone else runs my life. Your brother is protecting you. My brother is trying to control a mess that has been out of control for 25 years. There is a difference. Dr. Hartman set her chart aside and gave Sarah a look that felt like a diagnosis. Tell me about the nightmares. Sarah stopped walking. For weeks, she had the same dream of her mother driving in a storm, calling her name as the car spun out of control. They are just dreams, she said, just anxiety. Trauma can manifest in many ways, especially during pregnancy, Dr. Hartman said. The hormonal changes and emotional upheaval create a perfect storm. You think I am having a breakdown? I think you are having that a completely normal response to learning your entire life has been built on lies. The question is whether you will let that trauma define your future, or if you will take control of your own narrative. Sarah sank into the chair, finally admitting her exhaustion. I do not know how to take control when I do not understand what I am fighting. Then maybe it is time to stop fighting other people's battles and start fighting for what you want. If you could write the ending to this story, what would it look like? Sarah thought about the question. For months, she had been reacting to other people's decisions and revelations. I want my child to grow up free, she said finally, free from the violence that shaped my family. Free from people who see children as assets, free from the fear that made my mother choose to hide instead of fighting back. That is a good start. What else? I want the truth, all of it, about my mother's death and about who has been manipulating my life and why. And personally, what do you want for Sarah, separate from being a mother or a sister? The question caught her off guard. She had spent so many years being defined by others, she had forgotten herself. I want to matter, she said quietly. I was married to a man who saw me only as a possession. I want to be valued for who I am, Sarah explained. Is that possible in your current situation? Dr. Hartman asked. Sarah thought about the bodyguards and the constant surveillance. Not if I stay hidden forever, she said. Not if I let others make all the decisions for me. The doctor nodded. What would taking control look like? I do not know how to fight people like Victor's sons on my own. But you have a brother who does, the doctor reminded her. The question is, do you want to be a partner in that fight, or just a bystander? Just then, her phone buzzed. It was Marcus. His voice sounded strained, which immediately put her on high alert. Sarah, we need to talk. Can Dr. Hartman stay on the line for this? Maria has new information about Richard, Marcus said, his voice grim over the phone. He told Sarah to put him on speaker so Dr. Hartman could hear. We know why he's been so confident. He's building a case to have you declared mentally incompetent. The words felt like a punch to the gut. Marcus continued. He is documenting what he calls your emotional instability and paranoid behavior. He plans to argue that the stress of the pregnancy, combined with learning about your family connection to me, has triggered a psychological break. Richard's goal was to prove Sarah was unfit to make decisions for herself or her child. He cannot do that, Sarah whispered, but he could. Richard had been methodical, collecting medical records about her pregnancy-related anxiety and twisting her accusations about his affair into proof of paranoid jealousy. He even had witness statements about her emotional state. Sarah felt a wave of nausea. He is going to use my reaction to being slapped as evidence that I am unstable. Marcus added, It gets worse. He's painting your relationship with me as a dangerous influence, using my family's criminal history to claim you have poor judgment that could endanger your child. Dr. Hartman confirmed their fears. If a judge believed Richard, he could gain full custody of the baby and control of all their finances. We have to fight this, Sarah said, her voice shaking. How long do we have? Richard had already filed the initial paperwork. She had 30 days to respond. We can fight, Marcus said, but you cannot hide anymore. You need to be visible and active in your own defense. Sarah thought of the isolated safe house that had once felt like a sanctuary. Now it seemed like a trap. Marcus, I need to come back to the city. Absolutely not. It is not safe, he protested. It is not safe for me to look like I am hiding, either, she shot back. If I disappear for weeks, it just proves his point that I am unstable and avoiding my responsibilities. Sarah took a deep breath. And you do not understand how dangerous it is for a woman to let other people make all her decisions for her, even people who love her. The line went silent. When Marcus spoke again, his tone had shifted from argumentative to thoughtful. What are you proposing? I am proposing we stop playing defense and start playing offense, Sarah said. Richard thinks he can use my family history against me. What if we use it for me instead? What if we take control of the story? What if, she continued, her confidence growing, instead of letting him paint me as an unstable woman, I tell the story of a woman who discovered she had a brother and chose to fight for her family? Marcus was quiet for a moment. That is incredibly risky, Sarah. Once this story is public, there is no taking it back. There is no taking it back anyway, she replied. At least this way, I get to tell my own story. What about the threats? He asked. Victor's sons have been operating in the shadows for 25 years, relying on secrecy and fear. What happens to their power when everything is out in the open? When the media and the entire world are watching? Dr. Hartman's voice cut in, full of admiration. That is not the reasoning of an unstable woman. That is the reasoning of someone who understands exactly what she is up against. Marcus, I need to come home, Sarah insisted. I need to be part of this fight. The line was quiet for a long time. When Marcus finally answered, his voice was filled with a pride she had never heard before. Okay, sister, let's go to war. Sarah's return to Manhattan was a return to a new reality. The apartment she had shared with Richard was now a fortress, with reinforced doors and hidden panic rooms. This feels necessary, Marcus said, explaining that their enemies were getting impatient and pushing for more direct action. Meanwhile, Richard continued his charade, calling and sending flowers, playing the part of the devoted husband worried about his pregnant wife. His legal case was strong, backed by statements from people who questioned Sarah's judgment. Marcus and Maria had clearly discussed the worst-case scenarios. They looked at each other, a silent confirmation passing between them. They have medical records on your anxiety and mood swings. They even found neighbors who will testify that you have changed. What kind of changes? You isolate yourself, you are paranoid, and you abandoned your routines. It is all easily explained by finding out your husband planned to divorce you and take your inheritance. But Richard's team is twisting it. They claim it is proof of mental instability brought on by pregnancy and family trauma. Sarah felt a wave of frustration. It all sounded so believable. What do we have to fight back with? Maria has been building a case around Richard's lies and financial games. We can prove he planned this divorce for years, that he married you for your money. We can show he has been chipping away at your mental health to strengthen his case. Will it be enough to win? Honestly, I do not know. Family court judges have seen it all. Without hard proof of criminal fraud, it just becomes his word against yours. And in that scenario, your pregnancy and family history are used against you. Sarah looked around the apartment. It did not feel like her home anymore. She thought about the strategy she had suggested at the safe house. What if we refuse to wait for the court? What if we go public first? I have been thinking about that. There are risks. Everything has risks. What are the rewards? Marcus pulled up a chair. He was shifting into his strategic planning mode. The upsides are huge. If we control the story and when it breaks, we can shut down several of their moves at once. How? First, we destroy his story that you are having a breakdown. We will show everyone that you are clear-headed, well-spoken, and making smart choices for your family. Sarah nodded. And the second thing, we force Victor's sons out of hiding. Right now, they are using other people to do their dirty work. That gives them cover. If the Federal Bureau of Investigation starts asking questions about them publicly, they have two choices. They can either back off, or they can escalate and risk prosecution. And third, we could protect other people from this happening again. Once this story is out there, it becomes much harder for predators to use these tactics on other women. Something inside Sarah finally clicked into place. A sense of purpose had been growing for weeks. I want to do it, but I want it to be done right. What does that mean? I want to tell the whole story. It is not just about Richard's schemes or Victor's criminal past. It is about the price of family secrets. It is about women needing to take back control of their own lives. Marcus looked interested. Keep going. How many women feel trapped in terrible marriages because they do not have the money or the support to leave? How many families fall apart over secrets meant to protect them? You want to make this about more than just us. I want to make it meaningful. If I am going to risk my life and my baby's future, it has to be for more than winning a custody fight. Before Marcus could answer, Sarah's phone buzzed. It was an unknown number. She nearly ignored it, but something told her to answer. Hello? Sarah? It is Tom. Her stepfather's voice sounded old and weak. thinner than she remembered. A storm of love, anger, and sadness washed over her. He was the man who raised her, but he had also betrayed her. Tom, where are you? Somewhere safe, I hope. I have to see you, Sarah. There are things I need to tell you, things I should have told you years ago. Sarah glanced at Marcus, who was already alerting their security team. What kind of things? Things about your mother's final days. About why I really brought you to New York. And about the people who have been asking about you. Tom, are you in danger? We all are, sweetheart. More than you realize. Can you meet me? Sarah was torn. She loved the man who had been her father for 25 years, but she knew he could be a pawn in her enemy's game. Tom, I need you to know something. I forgive you for talking to Richard's lawyers. I understand why you did it. The silence on the other end of the line was so long, Sarah thought he might be crying. You were always too kind, Sarah, always seeing the good in people. It is what made you a great teacher, but it also made you a target for people like Richard. What do you mean, people like Richard? I mean people who hunt their victims. They learn exactly which buttons to push, which fears to use against you. Sarah, Richard did not just happen to meet you at that charity event. He was hunting you. A deep chill spread through her chest. Hunting me? How? He had been following you for months before you ever met. He learned your schedule, your hobbies, your emotional triggers, the charity, the elementary school, your desire to help people, no matter the cost, to yourself. How do you know all this? The people who contacted me showed me pictures, Sarah. Photos of you going to work, going to the grocery store, going to your book club. They watched you for a very long time before Richard ever said hello. Sarah realized she was trembling. The perfect romance she thought she had, the handsome lawyer who won her over with his charm, had all been a carefully planned stalking operation. Tom, where are you? We have to get you to a safe place. We need to know everything. I am not sure anywhere is safe now. They know I have been talking to you and Marcus. They know I'm done helping them. Who are they? They are people who believe Victor Blackstone's fortune belongs to them. People who have waited 25 years to collect on debts your father owed them before he went to jail. Sarah felt the baby give a sharp kick, reacting to her fear. Tom, listen to me. Go to the nearest police station. Ask for protective custody. Tell them you have information on organized crime and that your life is in danger. Do it now, Tom, please. I cannot lose you too. The line went dead. Sarah stared at her phone, filled with a terrible sense of dread. Marcus was already talking to Maria, trying to locate Tom. But Sarah was focused on one thing. It was the final push she needed to go public with her story. Marcus, she said after he hung up, how fast can we set up a press conference? Why? Because I refuse to spend my life hiding from people who think they own me. And I will not let my child grow up in a world where victims are told to be quiet while monsters walk free. Marcus looked at her and saw a new strength in her eyes. He gave a slow nod. How soon can you be ready? I have been ready my entire life. I just did not realize it until now. The press conference was set for Thursday morning at the Blackstone Holdings building. But by Wednesday night, Sarah was having second thoughts. She stood in Marcus's office, looking out at the city lights. Was she about to make the biggest mistake of her life, or was she finally taking control? The media interest is huge, Helen reported. She read from a list. Cable News Network, National Broadcasting Company, American Broadcasting Company, the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, and about 20 others. This will be a massive story. Any word from Richard? Sarah asked. His lawyer has called 3 times today, Marcus said. A very polite request for you to avoid any public statements that might affect the legal case. In other words, he is terrified. He knows that once you tell your side, his story about your mental health, falls apart. Just then, Maria Santos walked into the office. She was holding a thick folder and had a grim look on her face that silenced the room. "We have a problem," she said. Sarah's stomach dropped. "What kind of problem?" "The kind that means tomorrow's press conference is now far more dangerous than we thought." Maria opened her folder and laid several photos on Marcus's desk. These were taken this morning, outside different Blackstone Holdings buildings. Sarah stared at the pictures. She saw strange men sitting in dark cars, watching everyone who came and went. "Surveillance," Marcus said. "It is more than that. 3 of these men have criminal records tying them to Victor Blackstone's old crew. They are not just here to watch. They are here to deliver a message." "What kind of message?" "The kind that says your family has drawn the wrong kind of attention from people who hate the spotlight." Sarah felt the baby kick again, as her fear spiked. "Are we in immediate danger? We are dealing with people who have lived in the shadows for decades. Now they are facing national media exposure. That makes them very unpredictable." Marcus was already on his phone, speaking quietly and urgently to his head of security. Sarah watched her protective brother become the powerful executive who had built an empire. "What are our options?" he asked when he hung up. "We cancel the press conference," Maria said instantly. "We move Sarah back to the safe house and wait for law enforcement to handle the threat. That could take weeks, maybe months." "There is another option," Marcus said carefully. "We move the press conference up. We use it to force everyone's hand, all at once." Sarah felt a spark of understanding. "We do not just tell my story about Richard. We tell the complete story about Victor's criminal organization, the threats, everything." "Exactly," Marcus confirmed. "We make it impossible for them to operate in the shadows anymore. We put everything on the record, with federal law enforcement present." This was not just a defense, it was an attack. And for the first time in months, Sarah felt powerful. "This plan makes any move against us a federal crime, with a room full of witnesses." Maria was not convinced. She said, "That is a huge risk. You are starting a war with killers." Marcus shot back. "They started this war 25 years ago. We are just now fighting back." Sarah's mind raced. She thought of her mother, who died in a car crash that suddenly seemed suspicious. She thought of Tom, in hiding, for trying to protect her. She thought of the new life inside her, a child who deserved a legacy of courage, not fear. "I will do it," she said. "But I need Tom and everyone else involved to have witness protection." Marcus nodded. "That is already done. Maria has been working with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. They have been after Victor for years and are thrilled to finally have witnesses. And Richard? Richard is about to become a minor detail in a much bigger story. This is no longer about a messy divorce. This is about a woman who found out her family was targeted by criminals and decided to go public." A deep sense of calm washed over Sarah. It was the same feeling she got in her classroom when dealing with a tough situation. Sometimes you just have to face a problem head-on with the truth. "When do we write my statement?" "We already started," Marcus said, holding up a notepad full of ideas. "But the final words have to be yours. It must be your story told your way." For the next 4 hours, Sarah worked with them. She needed to balance legal facts with raw emotion. She had to expose the manipulation she suffered without playing the victim. She had to show the danger without sounding unstable. Maria explained, "You need to sound like you were taking control of your story, not like you have lost control." "What if I have lost control?" "Then you fake it until you make it," Maria replied. "The only other choice is to let them write your story forever." Sarah thought about who she was 6 months ago. She was always agreeable, always letting Richard decide everything. That woman felt like a complete stranger to her now. As they finished the draft, she said to Marcus, "I have been wondering why Victor's sons took so long to make a move. They could have come for his money years ago, or even come after you. Why target me now?" Marcus looked at her. "What is your theory?" "I think they had to be certain Victor was never getting out of prison. They could not challenge him while he might be released. But now something must have changed. Victor's last appeal was denied 6 months ago. After 25 years, they finally know he is going to die in prison. This means they can start plotting to take over his empire, but first, they have to get rid of any other potential heirs. That means you and your baby." Sarah rested a hand on her stomach, feeling the steady beat of her child's heart. This fight was always coming. Richard simply gave them a convenient excuse to start it. So stopping him does not stop the real threat. No, but exposing the real threat takes care of Richard and protects anyone else they might target. Marcus smiled, a fierce pride in his eyes. "You know what I realized tonight? You have stopped thinking like the hunted. You have started thinking like the hunter." Sarah knew he was right. The web of lies that had shaped her life had transformed her from prey into predator. Is that good or bad? It is survival, and it is the only thing that will keep you and your baby safe. Sarah looked out at the city, at all the people whose lives were about to change because of her story. "Marcus, what if this does not work? What if going public just paints an even bigger target on our backs? Then we will face what comes next together as a family. We will face it in the light, not hiding in the shadows anymore. Promise me something. Promise me that tomorrow we stop letting fear make our decisions. We stop letting their violence control us." Marcus took her hand, his grip firm and warm. "I promise. But you have to promise me something too." "What is it?" "Promise that if this gets too dangerous, if the threats get to be too much, you will let me take you and the baby somewhere safe while we finish this." Sarah saw the same protective fire in her brother's eyes that must have driven their mother 25 years ago. "I promise to always put my baby's safety first, but I will not promise to hide while other people fight my battles. Those days are over." Marcus nodded, accepting her terms. "Then let us go make some history." Thursday morning was gray and cold. A drizzling rain made Manhattan look like a movie scene. Sarah stared at her reflection in the office bathroom. Was the woman looking back brave enough for this? At 8 months pregnant, she felt the weight of the world on her shoulders. But she saw a new determination in her eyes, a strength that was not there 6 months ago. The press conference was set for 10 a.m. The conference room was buzzing, filled with cameras, microphones, and enough security to protect a president. Through the walls, Sarah could hear the low hum of reporters and police finding their seats. "You do not have to do this," Marcus said for the 10th time. "We can still call it off, and I can spend the rest of my life wondering if I was brave enough to fight for my family." Sarah shook her head. "Number 1, I am done letting other people decide my future." Just then, Maria Santos appeared in the doorway, holding a tablet. Her expression was serious. "We just heard from the FBI," she said. "Victor's sons made contact. They want to negotiate." Sarah's heart hammered against her ribs. "Negotiate what?" "They are making an offer. They will leave you alone permanently. In exchange, you make a public statement giving up any claim to Victor Blackstone's money. You also have to agree to never investigate your mother's death." "Absolutely not," Marcus snapped. "It is not his decision," Sarah said, looking at Maria. "What exactly is the offer?" "They will stop all surveillance and intimidation. They will not interfere with your divorce. They guarantee your child will never be threatened. And in return, I give up the right to know how my mother died and any inheritance From a man I never met? Essentially, yes. Sarah thought about the offer. She saw the appeal, but she also saw the trap. What happens if I take the deal and later decide I want the truth? Then the deal is void, and we are right back here. So they want me to promise to never seek answers. And they want my unborn child bound by that same promise. That is how I see it. A wave of anger washed over Sarah. They want me to choose ignorance and fear, just like my mother did. They want me to pass down that legacy of secrets to my child. Marcus moved closer. Sarah, you have to think about this. This offer means safety for you and the baby. This offer is the exact kind of thinking that got our family into this mess. How many more generations have to sacrifice the truth for a false sense of safety? Maria stepped between them, seeing the rising tension. There is something else, she said. The FBI thinks this offer means Victor's sons are scared. They are more worried about public exposure than we thought. They would not be negotiating if they thought they could survive the fallout. So, we have more leverage than we knew. The threats against you are real, but so is their fear of a federal investigation. Sarah's decision was instant and clear. I am not taking their deal. I will not trade my right to the truth for their promise to stop terrorizing me. And I will not teach my child that the way to deal with bullies is to give them what they want. Sarah, Marcus began, no. I have listened to everyone. I have weighed all the risks. My choice is made. We are holding this press conference, and we are telling the entire truth. Before anyone could reply, there was a knock on the door. Helen peeked in, looking flustered. Miss Mitchell, someone is here to see you. He says he is your stepfather. Sarah's heart leaped. Tom, is he safe? He has an FBI escort, but he is asking to speak with you privately before you begin. Sarah looked at Marcus, who gave a slow, reluctant nod. 5 minutes. Then we need to start. Tom Wheeler looked older than she remembered. New lines were etched around his eyes, and he seemed more fragile. But when he saw her, his face broke into the same gentle smile that had comforted her since she was a little girl. Sarah, sweetheart, you look beautiful. She hugged him, careful of the baby bump between them. Tom, I was so worried. Are you okay? I am safe now, thanks to your brother, but I had to see you before you did this. I need to tell you some things that might change your mind. What kind of things? Tom handed her a thick manila envelope filled with papers and photos. Things I should have told you years ago, but I was too scared and ashamed. Sarah opened it and saw pictures of her mother she had never seen before, a young, confident Maria Blackstone. She was laughing, standing next to a man Sarah did not recognize. Who is this? That is your mother with Detective James Morrison. He was the police officer investigating Victor's crimes when they met. He was the one who helped her plan your escape from Alabama. Sarah stared at the photo. She saw a look on her mother's face she had never seen in her few childhood pictures. Mom looks happy. She was. For the first time in years, she had hoped that Victor could be stopped by the law. She hoped she could get both of her children to safety. What happened? Detective Morrison was killed in what the police called a robbery gone wrong. Case closed. But Maria never believed it. A cold dread spread through Sarah's chest. She thought Victor had him killed. She was positive, and she was terrified that anyone else who tried to help her would end up the same way. Tom showed her another document, this one on official Alabama State Police letterhead. This is Detective Morrison's last report on Victor's organization. He was going to present it to a federal grand jury the week he died. Sarah scanned the pages. They mentioned money laundering, drug trafficking, and a criminal network bigger than she could have imagined. Tom, why are you showing me this now? Because Detective Morrison had a partner who has been unofficially investigating this case for 25 years, Agent Patricia Collins. She is now a senior investigator at the FBI and she is here. She is downstairs with the other agents. Sarah, she has waited 25 years for someone in your family to come forward and help her finish what Detective Morrison started. Sarah began to tremble. You are saying that telling my story today is not just about protecting myself. This is for Detective Morrison and all the other victims. Your mother would be so proud of you. Sometimes the most dangerous path is the one you have to take. Sarah looked at the photos, seeing her mother not as a victim, but as a fighter. Tom, I have to ask you something. I need the absolute truth. Anything. Do you think Mom's car crash was an accident? Tom was silent for a long time, the weight of 25 years on his face. No, sweetheart, I do not. I think your mother was killed because she would not stop fighting for you. The truth hit Sarah hard, but it did not shatter her. It forged her resolve into steel. Then it is time to finish what she started. Sarah stood, her hand on her stomach. She looked at Tom with a fire in her eyes that was just like her mother's. Let us show the world what happens when you mess with a Blackstone woman. The conference room at Blackstone Holdings looked like a courtroom. Cameras were pointed at a podium, and the chairs were filled with reporters and federal agents. Sarah stood there looking at the people who would share her story with millions, and felt completely calm. Good morning, she started, her voice strong and clear. My name is Sarah Wheeler Mitchell. 6 months ago, I thought I knew who I was. I was a former teacher, married to a great lawyer, living a good life, and expecting a baby. Today, I am here to talk about the gap between the life you believe you are living and the one that is actually real. She paused. I am here to discuss lies, financial control, and how women are often treated like property instead of people. I am here to talk about family secrets that were meant to protect, but only created pain. I want to talk about the courage it takes to choose truth when it is not safe. Sarah looked right at the camera, thinking of all the women who might see themselves in her story. But most of all, I am here to show what happens when you stop letting other people tell your story and you start telling it yourself. For the next 30 minutes, she told them everything, the lies from Richard, her connection to Marcus, and the threats from Victor's network. I want to be very clear about one thing, she said. As she finished her statement, her voice was steady. I am not here for your pity. I am here as a woman who discovered the people she trusted most were lying to her and who chose to fight back. The questions that followed were tough, but Sarah found that speaking her truth was surprisingly freeing. The real impact came in the following days. Within 48 hours, Richard's law firm had fired him. The case against Sarah was quietly dropped, and Richard filed for a simple, uncontested divorce. He was trying to minimize the damage, knowing his manipulation tactics were now a matter of public record. What about the threats from Victor's sons? Sarah asked. Complete silence, Maria told her. They know there is too much attention on them now. Just then, Marcus walked in with a large folder. The FBI investigation has enough to bring federal charges against 12 people in Victor's organization, including his sons. He paused. They even found financial records linking Victor to the man who killed Detective Morrison. Tears welled in Sarah's eyes. My mother was right. She was murdered for protecting us. She was murdered for refusing to let violent men control her family's future, Marcus corrected gently. And because she fought back, we can finally get justice. Victor would die in prison, his legacy in ruins. Thinking of her mother, a woman in a photograph, who died trying to protect her children, Sarah knew what she needed to do. I want to start a foundation, she said suddenly. I want to use my inheritance from Victor's assets and whatever I get from Richard to help other women escape manipulative relationships. I want to turn this entire nightmare into something good. She would call it the Maria Morrison Foundation, to honor both women, their fight for truth, and the idea that no one should have to choose between safety and honesty. 6 weeks later, Sarah gave birth to a daughter, Maria Rose. Marcus was in the delivery room, crying harder than the baby, completely transformed. She's a Blackstone, Sarah said, exhausted but triumphant. She is going to change the world. The Foundation's first meeting took place in the same conference room where Sarah had told her story. 30 women attended, all survivors, all ready to rebuild their lives on a foundation of truth. With little Maria asleep in her carrier, Sarah addressed the group. I've learned that real family is something you choose, build, and fight for, she said. And the family you choose can be more powerful than the one you were born into. The women nodded, seeing their own stories in hers. We're all here because we refused to let others define love for us. We chose truth over comfort and our own voices over someone else's story. She looked at the courageous faces around her. The most important lesson, she continued, is that we heal together. We do not get better from trauma by ourselves. We build new lives by facing our past, not pretending it never happened. We heal by sharing our stories and supporting one another. Later, Sarah stood in Marcus's office, looking out at the city. Little Maria was growing fast, already showing her family's green eyes. Any regrets? Marcus asked, coming to the window. About what part? Going public? Taking the risk? Sarah considered the question. I regret that it took me 37 years to realize I had a choice, she said. I regret that my mother died thinking she had to keep us apart to protect us. And I regret that women are out there right now, living the way I was just 6 months ago, believing they have to accept control just to feel secure. But you do not regret the fight? Marcus asked. No, she replied. The fight was the first honest thing that had happened to me in years. He nodded. What is next? Sarah glanced at her daughter. Next, we keep fighting. We keep telling the truth and helping women find their voices. We will build the kind of family my mother always dreamed of. A year later, Sarah was back in the Manhattan restaurant where everything changed. This time, however, she was hosting the first fundraising dinner for the Maria Morrison Foundation. The room was full of supporters and survivors. It feels different being here, Marcus noted beside her. Everything feels different, Sarah said, adjusting 10-month-old Maria on her hip. The baby was curious and fearless, reminding Sarah so much of her own mother. But it is a good kind of different, an honest different. The evening's program included powerful stories from women helped by the foundation and updates on the federal cases that followed Sarah's testimony. But the defining moment for Sarah came when Agent Patricia Collins walked over. Miss Mitchell, I need to thank you personally, the FBI investigator said. Her voice was heavy with the weight of a 25-year career. Because you were brave enough to speak up, we finally closed Detective Morrison's case. His family waited decades for this. Was it really Victor? Sarah asked. We can't prove he gave the order directly, since he will not cooperate. But we have enough to convict the men who did it. And we traced the money back to his organization. Tears welled in Sarah's eyes. Mom was right to be so scared. Your mother was a brave woman trying to protect her children from unimaginable violence, Agent Collins said gently. But she was fighting that battle all alone. You are not. Sarah thought about how easily her story could have ended in tragedy. Do you think we have really stopped them, Victor's sons? We have seriously disrupted their network. 3 of his sons are in federal prison, and the rest have been arrested or have fled the country. Agent Collins gave a grim smile. But organized crime is like a monster with many heads. You cut one off, and another grows back. The important thing is, we sent a message. What about Richard? Sarah asked. He is serving 18 months in a minimum security prison for financial fraud. He will lose his license to practice law and most of his money, but he will get by. That is not my problem anymore, Sarah said. No, it is not. And that may be the biggest win of all. Later, Sarah spoke with other women whose stories echoed her own. A psychologist, Dr. Rebecca Martinez, noted, "It is amazing how these relationships follow the same script. The intense affection at the beginning, the slow destruction of your confidence, the isolation. It is like they all use the same playbook." They do, Sarah agreed, thinking of how Richard had systematically undermined her. The tactics work because they prey on our basic human needs for love and security. The only way to fight back is with education and a strong support system. That is why your work is so important, Dr. Martinez said. Every woman who hears your story sees a piece of her own. Sarah looked around the room. I have been thinking a lot about the difference between healing and justice, she told the group. I used to think that getting justice would heal me. But I have learned they are two different things. Justice happened when Richard went to prison and Victor's organization was broken up. But healing only started when I began telling my own story, when I stopped letting other people decide my value. Dr. Martinez nodded. Healing is something you control inside yourself. Justice depends on outside systems and other people. Exactly, Sarah said. And I have also learned that family is not just about blood. It is about the people who show up for you, who support your growth instead of trying to control it. As the night ended, Sarah stood in the exact spot where Richard had struck her 13 months before. The memory was there, but it no longer had power over her. Thinking about that night? Marcus asked, holding a sleeping Maria. I was just thinking how different everything is, she replied. That night I felt trapped and powerless. Tonight, I feel like I am exactly where I am meant to be. Any advice for the woman you were back then? I would tell her that the slap was not the worst part. The worst part was all the years she let someone treat her as less than equal and told herself it was normal. The slap just made her angry enough to finally stop. Marcus smiled. Mom would be so proud. I think so too, Sarah said. But more importantly, I am proud of us. We chose truth, we fought back, and we built something good from the wreckage. Sarah held her sleeping daughter, filled with an incredible sense of hope. What do you want for her? Marcus asked. I want her to know her own worth, Sarah replied. I want her to understand that love should make her feel stronger, not smaller. And if she ever faces what I did, I want her to remember that her mother chose courage, and that her family's legacy is fighting back against people who use love as a weapon. Sarah looked around the restaurant, no longer a place of humiliation, but the starting point of her new life. As they were leaving, Sarah noticed their waiter was the same young man from the night her world fell apart. He came to their table with a kind smile. Miss Mitchell, I followed your story. Your courage that night inspired me to finally leave an abusive relationship. Tears came to Sarah's eyes. I am so glad you are safe now. I am, he said, and I am applying to law school. I want to help people the way your foundation is. After he left, Marcus shook his head in wonder. You realize your story is having an effect in ways you will never even know. Sarah looked down at her daughter, who was starting to wake up. That is the thing about truth, she said softly. Once you let it out, it has a life of its own. It grows and changes things you never expected. Thinking of the quiet life she might have had, built on lies, she felt no regrets. She had lost a false marriage, but gained a true family. She had given up the illusion of safety for the reality of strength. Most importantly, she had learned that love was not something that happens to you but something you choose to build, one honest action at a time. The rain had stopped. The city sparkled with light as Sarah walked toward her new life, her brother beside her and her future in her arms. She had learned to transform her pain into a powerful purpose, and her silence into a voice that would help other women find their own. Sarah Wheeler, Mitchell Blackstone, had come full circle, but this time, the circle was wider and stronger, built on a foundation of truth that could withstand any storm. Sarah's journey teaches us something powerful. Love should make you feel stronger, not smaller. The people who truly care about you will never use your trust as a weapon against you. If this story touched your heart, or if you know someone who needs to hear it, please hit that like button, share it with them, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another story that could change a life. Drop a comment below. What would you have done in Sarah's situation? This content was carefully researched, developed, and manually edited by our team to deliver meaningful lessons and inspiration to our audience.